Hi, and welcome back to the show. I've got a great guest for you today, my good friend, Mark Wade. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Nick. Pleasure to be here.
And you run what they call a virtual family office, which is a unique thing most people haven't heard of. Why don't we start there?
Yeah, so the concept of family offices happened years and years and years ago during an era where the Carnegies, the Mellons, and the Rockefellers were extremely prominent. And they kind of figured out that, it's a good idea if we just go ahead and hire our own people and bring them in-house, and they can work for us, and we'll call it the Rockefeller or Carnegie or Mellon family office. So that went on for quite a few years. And nowadays it takes, oh my goodness, probably $500 million to really justify that. When we look back at that, we say, let's look at the evolution of family offices. And the next evolution was the multifamily office. And what that meant, there was probably some ingenious people that worked in those family offices, and they said, wow, we could do this for a lot of people and actually make a business out of it. And there was spawned the idea of the multifamily office. Nowadays, if we look to about 10 years ago, I belong to a great mastermind group, and we've been working for the last 10 years on the concept of the virtual family office, where we're able to take those very same talents, as it were, from around the country and sometimes from around the world, and bring them in specifically to work on a specific client's needs at that time, so we can help them achieve what their goals and desires are for them and their family in the future.
I love that. One of the things that a lot of people are probably thinking right now as they're watching this, if they're thinking about hiring someone like you, their entire life they've spent making money, right? And to save money, to have a retirement, to be comfortable, to have a nest egg. It's interesting when you start thinking about these families that had so much money, they had to hire a full-time staff just to manage their money and their legal affairs. And the whole idea that you can now get, as a person with $1 million, $2 million investable assets, you can get that quality of care for your estate, for your finances, is pretty mind-blowing, and it's finally here.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually kind of spectacular, and what really has made this possible, of course, is technology, and to some degree, the hard work of people who've been working on this for years behind the scenes. My mastermind group's a group of over 200 really, really qualified and real experienced pros in our industry, and they've been working on this concept for at least 10 years now. So the fact that we can bring the resources to bear for specific circumstances, for very specific cases and families, a professional will come in, whether it's an intellectual capital attorney, an asset protection specialist, whatever the need is, they can come in, they do their work, and then they go back to their business, and the client just gets billed for the work they did. They don't have to have that person on staff working full time for them. And so, the ability to do that and to marshal those different types of resources and talents together at one time is really, technology has made this all happen for us.
Makes total sense. Now, someone's probably watching this going, whoa, Mark, I don't have $100 million. What type of person is a good fit for a virtual family office?
Yeah, great question. We find where it really starts to make sense that we can drive true and meaningful value to the bottom line for our clients is when a family comes to us and they have $10 million or more in assets. If that's the case, whether those assets were in one state or in multi-states, as many people have multi-properties and businesses around the country nowadays, $10 million is kind of the jumping on point, if you will. And as I mentioned, in that case, we can drive true and really meaningful value to the bottom line.
Just to be clear, how high, is there a limit to what wouldn't make sense? And then do you serve people under that $10 million threshold with a different product, or is that really where it starts?
Yes, and sometimes. So the sky is the limit, really. I mean, we currently have clients $265 million and upwards from there. And again, down to that $10 million mark. We're able to provide some services to clients under $10 million, but not the full family office suite of services. But what we do have is a fantastic network of other professionals that when something is outside of our wheelhouse, we like to say, we have some great people that we can refer them to.
Makes total sense. Do you happen to have, while keeping anonymity, any stories of anyone you've worked with who was maybe blown away by what the flexibility of the virtual family office allowed them to do that maybe they didn't think they were going to be able to do?
The answer to that is absolutely, and it happens almost on a regular basis. Well, here's two areas, okay? On the business succession area, like an individual has a successful business and they're wondering, well, how am I going to unlock my value out of this business? How am I going to succeed this this business either to the next generation, maybe to employees, or how are we going to have a strategic sale? What do we need to do to get it ready to go? So we have success stories in that area all the time. Again, working with allied professionals, sometimes M&A people, sometimes private equity, sometimes business brokers, and so forth. And so that's one area, and the success that these individuals achieve is oftentimes beyond what they thought they would receive for that business. And the other one that hits home for a much wider variety of people, and almost everybody we work with really, is on the estate and succession planning front. It's amazing. Many people have done much and sometimes all of the work before they come to us. They have the proper wills, trust, or power of attorneys, medical directives, and so forth. But most of the time, they're not as up to date as they should be. Oftentimes, their family situation has changed since last they reviewed those documents, and the plan might not work as they expect it to work. So we're often able to make either changes, always improvements, right? And sometimes we have to rewrite these things because they become so outdated. Laws have changed. For example, there are many states where the laws regarding durable power of attorneys have changed 6 or 7 times in the last 10 years. And so clients are holding on to documentation they think is still valid, but may not work the way they expected. So those are 2 big areas. And people say, well, can you get a small return and better return on our assets? Whether or not you get another 1% or 2% return on your invested assets almost always pales in comparison to the extra 30 or 40% you're going to pay in estate or transfer taxes. So, we concentrate on the big things and we work our way down. But sometimes that's where the conversation begins. Can you do a better job for us with our investment assets? And we say, sure, let's take a look at that.
Sure, that's always look at. But let's be honest, most every wealth manager or financial advisor has access to more or less the same places to invest. Yeah. And so, some people are better at it. Some people charge higher fees, so you're not getting, there's all sorts of ways to look at it. But as you say, one of the biggest things that can really move the needle is tax savings, but a lot of people don't know how to do that correctly. It's funny that you talk about the whole will and estate planning thing. My attorney said to me, 6 months ago, Nick, we should take a look at your will and trust and say, I'm like, we just did that. He's like, Nick, it was over 10 years ago. And I went back and looked at it, and my daughter, who's 11, wasn't even in it. So it's like, that's how quickly these things can just slip away from you. Like, oh my gosh, yeah, we definitely need to take a look at that. The other thing I think is really interesting to talk about is, look, a lot of people watching this, you typically haven't gotten to this stage in life certainly without meeting a financial advisor, a wealth manager. You might have walked into your local branch and a very nice young man or lady offered to help you with some investments. Talk about the difference between the specialty that you have as opposed to, most other financial advisors that they might run into.
So after 44 years of doing the only thing I've ever done, this is it, the only thing I've ever done. In fact, I was licensed and working while I was in college, my senior year of college. After 44 years, we've determined that there's a huge difference between duration in the business and quality of the relationship somebody has with their clients. There are people who have been in the business for as long as me. So that's not the only thing you need to look at. You really need to look at, does my advisor know me? Does my advisor at least show that he cares and is interested in me and my family? It's got a lot to do with the relationship. How well does my advisor know me and care about me? So for example, we have clients, some of our clients we've had since our first year in the business. That's 44 years. So in several of those cases, we work with 4 generations of the same family. We do work for 4 generations of the same family. So I think that says something. Are you serving that family well? Do you know them? Do you care about them? And do they understand the work that you're doing for them, right? Because at the end of the day, everybody kind of sounds similar. Everyone kind of looks similar. And you're right. You can source many of the same products and services from a variety of sources. So everyone's kind of saying the same song. I'm here to say it's all about the relationship. It's all about serving the client and the client's family in the manner in which they deserve and need.
Yeah, 2 really important points there. One, you don't work for a bank, so you don't need to peddle the products to reach the sales quota to get, and that is what happens at banks. I'm not saying they're not serving people well, but you're free from that constraint, which really allows you to really have the full suite of tools that some banks only have certain things and that's all they can offer. You can offer the full suite of tools. The other thing I think is really important is, as you say, the relationship, you get the opportunity to find out what your client is after. For instance, I have a friend in their 70s, just paid off their house. I would do different things than pay off my house with that money. I would pull that money back out at low interest rate, reinvest in other things. However, that fits my risk profile, my appetite. My friend, they sleep so much better at night knowing that they're never going to have a mortgage again. And so it's all about learning what's right for the client. I mean, someone who has worked in the same career for 50 years trying to store up a nest egg might want something very different than someone who's been an entrepreneur and has been up and down the roller coaster their whole life and still wants some excitement, right? So it's really that relationship and you finding out what it is that they want. That's what a lot of advisors seem to miss. Let me tell you what I want. Let me tell you what you should have, but you get the opportunity to help your clients get what they want.
Yeah, I mean, we are fiduciaries in the purest sense of the word. Our obligation is to only first and foremost, to only do what's in the client's best interest, right? So that's one aspect of it. But the other aspect of it is, clients, we've learned over the years, make their decisions on two levels. So we like to say there's the quantitative level and the qualitative level, right? The quantitative level simply means, well, do all the numbers add up? Do I understand what Mark's saying? Does it make mathematical sense to us? But the qualitative level is the other part. That's the feeling, right? How do I feel about that? I understand what Mark's saying. I understand how this probably will end up according to what the numbers say. But I don't know, maybe that's going to cause me to lose sleep at night. So at the end of the day, we have to balance both of those things. So what do the clients need? What do the clients desire? What are their goals for themselves and their families? It's the extremely important part, because what type of legacy do they want to leave? And I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about what story do they want their life to tell to their family? What kind of message do they want to leave for their heirs, right? What kind of guidance do they want to provide for them when they're not here anymore? So it really is a big thing. The quantitative and the qualitative, the numbers adding up, and how do I feel about the numbers adding up? Yeah, that's exactly right. You're right.
It. On top of that, I'll let them talk to you in person about that, but a world champion shooter, pretty cool. There's some great stories in there too. Look, if someone's watching this and saying, you know what, I'd like to learn more about what Mark does. I'd like to learn more about what this virtual family office thing can do for me and my family. How do they find you, Mark?
Well, you could find us on the web, right? Everybody finds everybody on the web nowadays. Or if you're so inclined and you want to speak to me directly, email me. I will answer your email, I promise.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. We'll be right back with our next guest.